Welcome back to another Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating, high-stakes global reality, Pakistan's incredible mineral wealth. We're going to dive deep into how a country's subterranean geology actually shapes its history, its economy, and even its global geopolitical standing. And we'll do this by contrasting a literal ancient marvel with a modern, multi-billion-dollar mega project. It's a tale of two very different minds, so let's get into it. To kick things off, let's ask a question that spans thousands of years of history and some serious modern economics. What on earth could possibly connect the legendary ancient conqueror Alexander the Great to an untapped, modern-day $60 billion copper and gold reserve? I mean, it totally sounds like the setup for a historical fiction novel, right? But it's actually the very real, ground-level geological narrative of Pakistan. And this just brilliantly illustrates the sheer serendipity of how historical resources were found. The discovery of the Khewra Salt Mine, which is one of the largest in the world, by the way, wasn't made by some master geologist or a high-tech modern surveying team. No, back in 326 BC, it was actually ailing horses in Alexander the Great's army. They were recovering after licking rock salt, and that literally gave the secret away. A totally chance encounter burst an industry that has lasted for millennia. But of course, as time marched on, serendipity was replaced by actual science. Take this 1995 Geological Survey abstract, which established pretty early on that Pakistan's landmass is just geologically unique. We're talking about a crazy mix of rocks formed at oceanic centers, spanning deep oceanic to shallow marine environments, plus continental and oceanic island arcs. Basically, it's a super complex recipe that harbors a vast, incredible variety of untapped deposits, all just waiting beneath the surface. So that brings us to Section 1, a geological gold mine, mapping the underground promise. The data from that 1995 survey revealed a truly staggering scale. Just to give you an example, the discovery of over 175 billion tons of low-sulfur coal in the Thar Desert alone, pretty much overnight, pushed the country to 11th globally among nations with large coal reserves. Add to that basically inexhaustible reserves of limestone, massive deposits of gypsum, and the unique tectonic architecture of the Chagai and Khostan arcs, and well, you have a country sitting on a literal geological gold mine. Now, what's really crucial to understand here is the specific mention of the Chagai district in Balochistan. Geologists identified 22 distinct porphyry copper prospects in this single district alone. And porphyry deposits are absolutely vital because they typically contain massive, and I mean massive, tonnages of ore. This specific geological mapping is exactly what laid the groundwork for the modern megaprojects we see making major headlines today. Moving right along to Section 2, Khewra, the historic marvel and a centuries-old success story. Tracing its history, Khewra is just a perfect example of how a resource matures over time. It evolved from that ancient, lucky discovery by Alexander's horses into a thriving commercial hub during the Mughal era, where salt was being traded as far away as Central Asia. Then, jump forward to 1872, and a British engineer named H.W. Worth introduced a systematic approach, leveling roads and creating modern tunnels. Fast forward again, and it's evolved into the modern state-operated marvel run by the Pakistan Mineral Development Corporation today. The big takeaway here is the sheer volume of production happening today. Khewra produces over 350,000 tons of 99% pure halite, or rock salt, every single year. And honestly, the scale of this underground operation is just hard to overstate. It covers 110 square kilometers and is made up of 19 stories. 11 of those are entirely below ground. They use a really sophisticated room and pillar mining method that basically ensures the entire mountain doesn't just collapse in on itself. But here's the wild part. Khewra is not just some industrial extraction site anymore. It's become a literal cultural phenomenon. It draws around 250,000 tourists annually. People ride this tiny 2-foot narrow-gauge railway deep into the earth just to see things like a fully functional mosque built entirely from multicolored salt bricks, illuminated crystal valleys, and get this, even an underground 20-bed clinical ward that offers salt therapy for asthma. It is absolutely a masterclass in how you successfully merge heavy industry with global tourism. Which brings us to Section 3, Reko Diq, the $60 billion promise, the modern megaproject. Now, the numbers on this one are truly staggering. A formal feasibility study in 2025 confirmed that the total value of projected yields at Reko Diq exceeds an astronomical $60 billion US. Yep, $60 billion with a B. This is calculated based on prevailing market prices of over $3,000 per ounce for gold and nearly $10,000 per ton for copper. So breaking that down, we're looking at an estimated $54 billion in gold and $6 billion in copper. So let's look at what that actually means on the ground. This project boasts an estimated 5.9 billion tons of ore. Over its projected 37-year lifespan, it aims to yield 13.1 million tons of copper and 17.9 million ounces of gold. And what's really fascinating from an engineering perspective, this massive undertaking is designed to run entirely on solar energy. That makes it a uniquely green mega project in the global mining sector, which is pretty rare. But you might be wondering, who actually owns all this wealth? Well, the ownership structure reflects a pretty complex modern partnership, specifically designed to balance international expertise with local and national interests. 50% of it is held by the international operator, Barrick Gold. The provincial government of Balochistan holds a 25% stake to ensure regional benefits, while the remaining 25% is split between three major federal Pakistani state-owned enterprises. However, the financial requirements to actually pull this off are just immense. Phase 1 alone needs an estimated capital budget of up to $6 billion. To keep pace with rising costs and the sheer massive scale of the project, those three Pakistani state-owned entities we just mentioned recently had to double their individual funding commitments to $627 million each. Basically, it takes billions of dollars just to get to the billions of dollars buried in the ground.
All right, let's head into Section 4, Navigating Modern Mining Hurdles and the Realities of Global Extraction.
By now, we can clearly see a really stark contrast between our two examples. On one hand, you have Khewra, highly accessible, a centuries-old stable cultural hub that relies on relatively straightforward, low-tech extraction. But then on the other hand, you've got Reko Diq, a highly complex, incredibly remote mega project that's totally reliant on international financing and subjected to some really intense geopolitical and security pressures. And let me tell you, those pressures have very real consequences. In fact, as recent reports from April 2026 show, Barrick Gold actually had to officially slow down development at Reko Diq. They're currently having to conduct a comprehensive review that extends all the way into mid-2027, and that's due to an escalation of regional security risks. This kind of review forces a massive reassessment of not just security, but the entire capital requirement and the whole project timeline. And honestly, this latest delay is just another chapter in what has been a total labyrinth of legal and logistical challenges. I mean, the modern iteration of this project stalled way back in 2011 when an initial lease was rejected. That triggered a massive international arbitration, which resulted in a staggering $5.97 billion penalty against Pakistan in 2019. It actually took until 2023 just to sign a new reconstituted agreement, and now these current security reviews push crucial milestones out to 2027, with targeted first production hanging somewhere on the horizon in 2028. So that brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. Pakistan's geological wealth is undeniably vast, right? Spanning from the ancient, steady output of the Khewra Salt tunnels to the massive, highly complex promise of the Chage copper deposits. But with all those billions buried deep beneath the surface, we have to ask, will the ultimate $60 billion payoff at sites like Reko Diq actually justify the incredible geopolitical, security, and financial hurdles required to reach it? It's a seriously high-stakes balancing act between the Earth's ancient past and an incredibly complex economic future. Thanks so much for joining me today to explore the fascinating depths of this topic. I'll see you in the next one.